We just wanted to give a shout out to The Reminding for letting us use Studio 7 to record our very first season, Moments of Miracles, for our podcast, Breaking Bread. And I wanted to say, if you are ever in the area, Covington, come into the Terabella community, pop your head into The Reminding, grab a coffee, look at their merchandise. They have so many cute gift ideas.
Yep.
And come swing by and check out the studio room. There should be someone here to let you look in and see. And if you are interested in starting a podcast, recording, doing something for your business that requires video, talk to someone. You can specifically talk to Gerardo. He'll help you out.
Thank you.
Welcome to Breaking Bread Podcast with your hosts, Chelsey Passon
And Dana Black. Welcome to episode 1 of season 1, Moments of Miracles. Now let's break bread together. Your hair looks amazing.
Thank you. It took me so long to muster up the courage to cut it off.
Really?
She literally cut 8 inches off.
No.
I went home and measured
really?
it. I went home and measured it, and I was like, it was about right here. And I was like, there's no way. I kept pulling. I was like, there's no way it was 8 inches. Yeah.
Are you going to miss your green?
Yeah. Had to bring the green back in. Yeah, I'm going to miss it.
It's a very mature look. It looks great.
I know. My husband was like, actually, hey, you actually look like a grown woman. I'm like, thanks. So I look like a child before with the green.
Yeah. When I had Baylor, my hair was way down here, and I ended up cutting it to here.
I know.
And it was amazing. I'm going to grow it out for a little while, but definitely being a mom and having kids, it's a good thing to do.
I know. I guess I did one a more of a mature look, and I was kind of just over having dead ends with the green because I had all my hair green at once, and I had just let it go out, and then I was like, I'm ready for something new. I need this dead stuff off. And I texted Taylor and I was like, all right, I'm ready to do that idea I said.
Did you have long hair when you were pregnant and when they were born?
I've always had long hair. I've always had long hair. Never cut my hair. And then right after I had them, I think it was a year after them, I texted my sister because she does a little bit of hair and makeup. And I was like, I think I want to cut my hair for the very first time. All throughout high school and junior high, I was long, skinny looking hair.
No way. I had choppy. I had layers on layers on layers.
Yeah. And then Taylor asked me whenever she was cutting that, she was like, do you want layers? I'm like, no, I'm done. I'm done with
my
layers.
Goodness. I don't know. I didn't know you at that time when you were pregnant and when you gave birth to them. But I'm really curious to know how that is. I want a baby soon. Just
I know you do.
I know you know that. And I've been thinking a lot about
Stephen.
it. Stephen Black, where are you? I don't know. I'm really curious on how it goes, and I know that you had some complications or some struggles. So I want to know.
I've talked about it here and there.
Your story.
And that was another reason I really wanted to start the podcast. Like I said in our preview thing, was to tell about Kellen's testimony and all the struggles I had being pregnant and not knowing what was happening to my body. So just to be raw and just real out there, I got pregnant young.
How old were you?
18.
Wow. Yeah.
I had just turned 18 in November. Found out I was pregnant in the end of January, I think, beginning of February. And so I was finishing the second half of my senior year. So I was that girl pregnant in high school, but thankfully,
you were senior year, you said?
That was my second half of senior year that I found out I was pregnant. And somehow people found out. Not that I was trying to hide it, but I also just didn't want to be I never thought I was going to be that person pregnant in high school.
Did you graduate with a big belly?
No.
It wasn't, your belly wasn't big?
so many complications and everything that made me sick all the time. I was constantly throwing up. I missed so much school that I had to be finishing school at home. I remember my guidance counselor coming to my house so I can do my senior project and everything in front of her because I just couldn't. I was throwing up so much, and TMI, but you know how they say, oh, it's morning sickness? No, mine was all day long.
No way.
To the point where I was in the ER constantly. Gerardo would have to bring me to the ER. My mom had to bring me to the ER because I couldn't hold anything down. I had so many issues.
You finished high school?
I finished high school. I'm happy to say I graduated.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I walked across the stage, and there was many times where I was like, I don't think I'm gonna finish it. I wanted to give up so much. I wanted to give up because I was just like going through so much, being pregnant and being sick the whole time. I did not have an enjoyable pregnancy.
That's horrible.
Everyone's like, oh,
to think
I had
of.
the glow, the baby glow, and this and that. I'm like, man, I was like laying on my bed dying, like low key.
The whole time, like month 1.
Yep.
Wow.
After I found out, it wasn't like all at once, but as you know, get bigger and your baby's growing, it was just terrible. But I got pregnant at 18, and then went to my first appointment, and I went with my mom, and they were doing the ultrasound, and the lady was like, so you I can't remember what she said. So she said something about me having twins, and I was like, nuh-uh, stop lying. She's like, yeah, here's one, here's the other. I was like, my mom started crying because I'm a twin.
Oh, wow.
I'm a twin who has twins. My entire life I was told twins don't have twins. I was told it
skips a generation.
No, it don't.
Oh my gosh.
So I told that to the doctor, and she's like,
let this be known. It does not skip a generation.
It does not. If you, this is what the doctor said, if you are a twin, you have that gene, which makes sense. I mean, I guess it's like more of a pattern that it just so happens to skip, but for me it did not. So y'all, if you are wanting to be pregnant or pregnant and don't know how many you have and you are a twin, could be twins. But either way.
So where was Gerardo in this? Was he still in your life at the time?
Yeah, Gerardo
baby daddy?
Yeah, we were dating. So we were together at the time.
That's
and
good.
he was very supportive. He was there. He was always bringing me to the ER because I was in there so much, and coming with me to the doctor's appointments and whatnot. But so after the appointment that I found out I was twins, I came home impatiently wanting to tell him about it. So I told him, and he did not believe me. He just it's a
Did
guy.
they have pictures at the
yeah,
time?
she gave me the ultrasound, but he's a guy. He doesn't know what he's looking at. I had to like convince him. I have a video of him saying nuh-uh. I'm like, here's one circle and here's the other. I'm not lying. Like, she told me this.
Oh, I would love to see that video one day.
I gotta find it. I have no idea where that's at. But so yeah, I had after going through my first doctor's appointment and whatnot, finally graduated high school. When I graduated, right after graduation, he proposed to me.
No way.
He proposed to me at graduation.
In front of everyone?
Yeah, I had talked about it. I was like, it would be really cool because I used to see people get proposed to at graduation, and we've been together since high school. So then
that is so sweet.
I know. He got down on one knee and asked me. I was like, yeah. I have a video of that too, me crying, saying yes. So after going through graduation, finally thinking I was gonna like not get through that, I just struggled a lot with trying to, I guess, in a way, stay alive. I went to so many doctor's appointments trying to figure out what was happening, why my body was reacting the way it was, why I was constantly in the ER, and no one could give me a clear answer. They were just like, oh, you're a high-risk pregnancy because you have twins. Which, I mean,
wow.
Not only was I high risk because of the twins, but whatever the heck my body was doing, I like to just say it was my body rejecting the pregnancy.
No way.
It was pretty much because when I went to one of my doctor's appointments, they had just gotten my blood work back. And I remember that day going there, walking in, getting checked in, blah, blah, blah. And before I went to the back to my room, they made me take a urine sample test. And I remember walking out the door, just falling on the ground. Yeah, falling
all the way.
I fell on the ground. I just sat there. And I literally almost passed out. Like, if I would have just closed my eyes, I would have probably laid flat on the ground. And then they had to help me to the back of the room to get in the office room or whatever they put me in. And then she read my test results. She's like, yeah, so your body's shutting down. Yeah, and they had to rush me to the ER. I got to the ER.
How many months pregnant were you at this point?
I want to say around maybe 3, 4.
That's early.
I don't remember because I was only pregnant for 6 months because they were 3 months preemie.
Wow.
And I'll get into that.
3 months?
They were 3 months preemie.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
I'll get into that, but when I went to the doctors, they read my test results saying my body's pretty much shutting down, then I need to go to the hospital.
Yeah.
My mom brought me to the hospital, and I was there for 3 days, hooked up to everything, like IVs, a bunch of stuff to just revive my body. Like, literally.
That is scary.
I know.
And you were so young at this point. Like, you were 18, maybe 19 or whatever.
I know. I was 18 and I had just turned 18, and then I had the babies at 18, and then I turned 19 because they were born in July, and then my birthday's in November, so I had just turned 19 after having them. But yeah, young, not knowing what the heck's happening, just fresh out of high school. Like,
right.
It was, and it's so weird because I like to think about that time as in being my healthiest, not necessarily like taking care of my body, but like I was active, I was in marching band, I was a normal teenager eating junk, but also being healthy at certain points of life. But, and that's why it amazes me how much I went through and struggled with, because that was like my prime, as they say. Like, I should have been not having all those issues. But that is
not typical. Like, being 18 years old, having twins, preemie twins, and then being so sick for that 6 months. I mean, that is wild. Like, your body shutting down at 18 years old. Like, you were probably like, what is going on? So, like, what did the doctor say was the cause of your body, like, rejecting that? Like, what were the issues?
No one had ever given me a straight thing. They just said, oh, you have twins, this is a high risk pregnancy. And then on top of having all those issues, made it even more of a high risk. But then after I was in the hospital for those 3 days, I got back home, was on like indefinite bed rest. I couldn't really do much. When I went to a specialist to monitor, I don't know why I went to that specialist. Jardo might remember. I went to a heart specialist for babies, I think, because they thought that Kellen might have needed open heart surgery.
Wow.
Thank God nothing happened. We went there. I don't remember all the test results with that, but it was nothing serious. They just wanted to monitor him. But I remember
that was before you had
That was
birth.
before.
So they were able to
them.
check that inside.
Yeah, I literally sat there for like, it was a long doctor's appointment, and they checked everything to make sure all of his valves and stuff are working and whatnot.
Like, how can they do that? That's the coolest thing.
And I don't even remember why I went. I guess one of the doctors that I was seeing was questioning something, so they brought me there. I can't remember why, but I went there. Thankfully, nothing happened. Thankfully, they were like, it's nothing of concern for now, but we do want to monitor and make sure that he'll be okay. That was with Kellen. Kellen was the one that we always had like questionable things with. So he was the one that we had to check his heart and all these other things that were happening.
Did you have them named beforehand?
So, I fell in love with the name Kellen because Gerard and I were those little emo kids in high school. I don't like to say emo because we weren't like
That's a good word for it.
I know. I just say we were like the scene kids because we were like, we wanted the aesthetic, but we weren't really like that, like,
funny story. I used to wear like a black studded
stop. I cannot
like, necklace and bracelet at North Lake Christian School, and
ooh.
So I went through a phase too, and I don't know what to call it, but it's like
really?
I was in hip hop.
Oh wow!
So you end up wearing like black and studs and
just edgy.
Edgy. That's a great word. Yeah. Let's call it edgy from now on.
Well, yeah. Well, Gerard and I were into all that. We just called ourselves little scene kids, and we used to listen to all that screamo music, not like the really heavy stuff, but like Sleeping with Sirens. The singer of his name is Kellen Quinn.
Oh, cool.
And I fell in love with that name, and that was one of my favorite bands. So I was like, if I ever have a kid, I want to name him Kellen. And, you know, that's what happened.
So, like, did you have, I'm sure the doctors were, like, looking at both of your kids, and they could tell the difference between them based upon, you know, whatever the doctors were looking for, right? Like, if they were looking at Kellen's heart, did you know which kid was going to be what at the time?
Not at the time. I really didn't know. I mean, it kind of, like, had a, I hate to say, I guess instinct you'd say that Kellen, the one that we were having issues with, would be Kellen.
Okay. Yeah.
But I did not indefinite say that until like after they were born, because we had to like sign the papers and everything how to name them. So I was like, yeah, I'm gonna name this one Kellen.
Mighty Mo? Is
that
what you did?
Well, no, I was just like, I really love that name, and I really wanted this one to be Kellen. I don't know. It just
awesome.
felt like that should be it. And come to find out, my grandmother is obsessed with people's names. Like, she'll go and talk to them and be like, "What's your name?" And then she'll go home, look it up in a dictionary, Bible dictionary, whatever, and find the meaning of the name and bring it back to them. So I was curious to know what Kellen. Do you know what Kellen's name is?
No.
I think it's Mighty Warrior.
Oh my gosh, that is perfect.
I know. I was like, okay, so it was all meant to be.
Oh my gosh, do you know what Zane's is off the top of your head?
I don't know. It's like, I think it's like something about being a leader. I'm like,
yeah, that fits.
Accurate.
It's perfect.
I think it's
so accurate. That's
I can't
awesome.
remember. I just remember Kellen when I was looking up Kellen's name, and I think it said strong warrior, mighty
so
warrior.
amazing.
I was like, that's accurate.
That is so perfect.
Is accurate.
Because he's been through so much.
So after the all that stuff happened with the heart and everything, thankfully nothing was wrong. We went to another doctor's appointment. I think it was the 25-week one, and the doctor that was checking me was acting weird. My mom was being quiet. I think my mom knew what was happening, but I think my mom said they were having trouble finding the heartbeat, but they didn't want to say anything to me because, I'm young and just like, what's happening? And so they found out that Kellen's amniotic sac broke at 25 weeks. So the amniotic sac,
I had no idea.
So I think a day or two before I had that, I can't remember how long it was, but before I had that doctor's appointment, it was not too long before that doctor's appointment, but around like the 2-3 day whatever, I had, in the middle of the night, just kept having to go to the bathroom. And I was like, oh, this is what they're talking about when you have to go pee a lot because you're pregnant.
Wow,
so I just automatically,
I
had no idea. But I think that's when that happened, because then like a couple days later I went to that doctor's appointment. They were like, oh, his amniotic sac broke. You need to go to the ER now, be admitted and be monitored. So got rushed to the ER over here in Mandeville, and then got transferred across the lake because they wanted me to be at Oshner Baptist because they wanted that heart specialist doctor to be there in case Kellen needed open heart surgery. So not only was I getting admitted, I was getting admitted across the lake in Oshner Baptist in New Orleans. So I had
Chelsey, like, what was running through your mind at this point?
Looking back at it, and even through, not only through my pregnancy, but through the delivery, I was so calm. I had God's peace, not even knowing fully what God's peace is, because I grew up Christian.
I was about to say, like, where were you in your faith at this point?
I grew up in a Christian household. My parents really tried their best to like do devotionals with us, talk to us about God, Jesus, and whatnot, and brought us to church as much as they can. Like, we were in church on Wednesdays, Saturdays, Sundays, everything. Yeah, we were very involved, but I never fully understood what it means to have a relationship with Jesus. I always had a fear. Like, my idea of God and everything was, oh, I gotta do all these things or I'm gonna go to hell. Like, oh, I gotta make sure I raise my hand every single time they say, who wants to be saved? Or I'm gonna go to hell. Like, I was so fear driven, it wasn't relationship wise.
But I guess at this point, you just like, you were very hopeful.
I think right? Not only did I had so many people praying for me. My grandmother is like a prayer warrior. She'll pray for every single person she meets. And my family was just praying over me and praying over the situation. I was living for myself for the longest time. After all that fearness of being like young and fearful of going to hell, I lived for myself for the longest time. I was just living for Chelsey. Wasn't living for God. Wasn't doing the right thing. Not that I was doing these crazy things, but I mean, I just, in a way, didn't care. Like, Jesus was always in the back of my mind, but not really like the forefront. Like, I wasn't living for the Lord.
Right.
I was doing whatever Chelsey wanted to do.
You were pregnant at 18.
I know. So
I mean, I'm not perfect. Trust me. I'm not saying.
And you know what? I'm not gonna sit there and be like,
my story later.
I know, and you know what? Things happen, and I'm very, 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 very grateful for God's grace. And I truly believe that the stuff that I went through not only made me wake up and be like, what am I doing with my life? But made me draw closer to him and be like, hey, you remember me? Yeah, okay, cool. I'm going to get you through this. Because looking back at everything I went through with the pregnancy and the delivery and all the stuff with Kellen that I'm going to get into, I was calm.
That is insane.
I was
how you
not worried. My mom was crying and freaking out more than I was.
That is just how you know.
Yeah.
The peace, like his hand was on you.
It literally
the peace of God was so on you. It's so cool to see. I mean, that's how you know someone is set apart, because like they're able to go through things that if anyone else would go through them, they're just a nervous wreck, anxiety, depression, fear. And like anyone who has their hope and their joy in the Lord, they stand there like a mighty warrior. They're like, nothing can touch me. Like, because they know that this earth, this world is a little piece of what is it called? A fraction. I'm trying to like what is like the smallest little blink of an eye compared to eternity with the Lord. So it's like whatever we're going through here, this is not our home. Like this is just a place that we're in right now. And it's so amazing to see that you were able to go through all of that and just be at so much peace and have clarity of mind. You know, like whatever happens is God.
I know. Well, I acknowledged God during that time, but I wasn't as close as I am now. And I think, honestly, like I said, it was a lot of my family praying for me. A lot of my family members, my grandmother, my aunts, uncles, whoever was praying for me, friends protecting me. Like those prayers were protecting me, because I was so young, I really didn't know the severity of everything as well. And I think that might have been another reason why. But I honestly, truly believe, looking back, it was God's peace that surpasses all understanding over my 100%. Life, because I should have been freaking out. I should have been like, why is my body shutting down? Why am I going to the hospital right now? Because my one, baby's amniotic sac broke. 2, might have to have open heart surgery. Like I was just like, okay, all right.
Wow.
I really wasn't freaking out. Like
Chelsey, I have similar like situations where, like looking at it now as a believer, in my rebellious years, I look back and I'm like, the only reason I'm alive is because my parents and my grandparents were praying for my safety. Like this is like a quick little thing. I'm gonna just like jump in there, but I used to be the person that was like, I'll be the designated driver. Like, have you heard like DD? Like, I'll be the DD. I was the drunk driver, the DD. Okay. Wow. And I used to literally tell them like, I am the best drunk driver. And I would not be the sober one, like the designated driver. I would literally go out and drink with them. But I was like, I am the safest. Like any time that I'm driving, doesn't matter if I'm sober or I'm intoxicated, like I am the safest one. Like I always get us home safe. And thinking back now, I had no reason to be behind that wheel. And it was because my parents' prayers and my grandparents' prayers, my entire family was praying for my safety. And I would volunteer to be the one to drive because I was confident. I'm like, no matter where I go or what I do, I'm always protected. Isn't that wild?
And that's I think that's the difference between me and you, is that like you still had that like rebellious stage, but you still like was like, oh, I'm gonna be okay.
No, but at the time I didn't know why. I just knew somehow me and my friend group, we were all safe if I was the one in control. Isn't that crazy? Now stepping out of it, it was like the only reason that was the case is because all of the prayers that everyone was praying for me. Like it was just, it's crazy to think about how valuable prayer is and how important it is. And like praying for friends, family, protection, like anytime the Lord places somebody on your heart, you should not pass up that opportunity to pray for them, because there's a reason why it's so powerful.
I know. That's why if you see my social media, I usually post on like my little stories like, hey, if you need prayer, message me, because no one understands that like, yeah, you can pray and you should be praying every single day about everything and anything. But like when it says in the Bible, when 2 or 3 are gathered, he's there in the midst. Yeah. When you have someone else praying on your behalf, it can be even more powerful. And I guarantee, I will like bet money, the reason I went through all of that, being at peace, not being too scared. Because I remember telling my mom, I was like, everything's gonna be okay. I remember telling her that.
You were telling your mom that?
But like,
while you're like practically in labor at 6 months. Wow.
Literally like going through all that, it didn't click that it was God that was giving me all of this peace, and my family, my friends praying for me, because I wasn't living for the Lord. I was doing crazy, wild things, living for Chelsey, not living for righteousness. I was doing what I wanted to do.
Right.
And I just had God in the background. And thankfully all that changed. But not only did I go through all of that with his peace, but I think I went through that for a purpose, because it brought me back to him so much. I went through all that realizing that I should not be here.
Right.
If I didn't go to the doctors and figure all that, I probably would have been like passed out in my room, because I didn't know my body was shutting down until they read the test results.
Wow.
What if I never went to that doctor's appointment? What if I never got my blood work done? Like, God was
blood work done.
it's not terrible, but I mean, it's not good. But yeah, I'm a strong believer in the power of prayer.
It is so important.
That's what brought me through all of that. But back to the story, or I should say testimony.
Yeah.
After being transported to Ocean Baptist in New Orleans, I ended up staying there. Gerardo at the time, I feel so bad, but shout out to John Baldwin at Subaru for giving him a causeway pass. Because he'd have to drive. He was in Subaru in Covington. He'd had to drive every single day to come see me and sleep there at night, and then wake up and go to Subaru in the morning. Because I was in the hospital indefinitely on bed rest, monitored with everything hooked up to me, everything possible you can think of. They were monitoring.
And he was 18 too, right?
No,
Y'all were the same age?
19. He's a year and something older than me.
Was he in the same grade as you? Mm-mm. No. Okay.
No.
So he had already graduated.
Yeah.
The year before. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
He,
I mean, still, it's so young, but
we were both very young, but he was driving back and forth from Subaru in Covington to New Orleans every single night, the 30 days I was there. And just randomly, I guess, I got checked and at 29 weeks, and then they were concerned for something. I had no idea what it was at the time. She got the doctor, and the nurses got the doctor, and they're like, okay, so we spoke with the doctor, and they want to do an emergency C-section because you're 2 centimeters dilated, and preemies can come out at that time. And I was like, what? So all this was happening. I had to call Gerardo from work, and I was like, hey, they want to do an emergency C-section. You need to come. And we had already had like close calls, so I was like, hey, you need to come, we might have the kids today. So I told him that time, and he was like, oh, okay. Took his sweet time getting across the lake. I'm 90% sure he walked in with a bag of Chick-fil-A or something.
Wolf, like it just happened so many times. He was probably like,
literally had so many close calls, so many issues that he was just like, oh, okay, here we go again. I'm 90%
stop at Chick-fil-A on my way.
I'm pretty sure he did. Did you stop at Chick-fil-A? Yeah. See, he's shaking his head. So he came in, and then he walked into the door. He's like this, and he's like, oh, because there were so many nurses and doctors in there. Someone was pulling up my IV. Someone else was putting one in, and like I had so much going on. Yeah, they were prepping me for a surgery. Which, side note, that was my very first surgery. I never got my teeth pulled, never got anything. That was the very first like medical procedure.
So you had no idea what did they put you under?
No, I was so anxious.
They gave you an epidural?
They gave me a
what did they do?
Tap or something like that. I was so anxious because I had never gotten anything done. I was like, oh my word, I'm so anxious about that needle because I've always heard about that. And I thought it was an epidural, but when you have an emergency C-section, I think they said that they do a spinal tap because everything's happening so fast. I don't know. All I remember is when they were about to do it, I was holding on to that nurse. I was like, I'm so scared. I was literally shaking. I was shaking. And they did it. And then I laid there, and
oh my goodness.
They were checking just to make sure I was numb. I was awake this whole time, but I was kind of like out of it because I was, kind of drugged up. But on top of that, I was so tired. I remember I was so tired. I think this was like 7, 8 o'clock at night, just laying there. And all of a sudden, Jardo's next to me, and he's like, Chelsey, like, wake up. I'm like, I'm so tired. And they did the emergency C-section, and the kids were born at 29 weeks.
Wow. How long did the C-section take? Do you know?
I think the actual procedure did not take as long as the setup and like preparation.
Yeah.
Getting the room fixed and ready for a surgery.
Does Gerardo did he watch that? Like, is it the same? Like giving
yes.
birth? You know how
the
husbands watch?
They put a sheet in front of you And Jordan kept popping over the sheet to look. I remember the very next day he was like, yeah, so like your blood was all over the shoes, your blood was like everywhere, and then they had your organs out into a container next to you. I'm like,
wait, I'm not.
Thank you for telling me this as I'm sitting here trying not to puke or laugh because the C-section scar is like giving me so much pain. It was.
I could have went my entire life without knowing that. Hold on, I need to catch my breath. I'm not good with blood.
How do you think I felt when he was telling me, yeah, your organs were just.
No, don't say it again. Don't say it again.
It was terrible. I'm like, Gerard, this is my very first like
sip of my coffee
thing I've ever been done. I could have lived at least a little longer not knowing that.